The glass shattered against the marble floor, exploding into 1,000 pieces. Choi Daegun stood in the center of his penthouse, fists clenched, watching the expensive vase he'd just thrown turn into dust. But the sound he really wanted to stop, the sound that had been drilling into his skull for 7 hours straight, didn't stop at all. His son was still crying. Minjae's screams filled every corner of the room, loud and desperate, like a siren that wouldn't quit. The baby lay in his crib, face red, tiny fists punching the air. Daegun had called doctors. He'd hired nannies. He'd bought the most expensive formula from Japan. Nothing worked. The child just kept crying. Daegun was the most feared man in Busan. People crossed the street when they saw him coming. Business owners paid him protection money without argument. Even the police looked the other way. But right now, standing in front of his 3-month-old son, he felt completely powerless. "Boss!" The voice came from the doorway. Baek Jinho, his head of security, stood there looking uncomfortable. The 5th nanny just quit. She said she can't handle it anymore. Daegun ran his hands through his hair. He hadn't slept in 2 days. His expensive suit was wrinkled. His eyes burned with exhaustion. "What am I supposed to do, Jinho? Tell me what I'm supposed to do." Jinho hesitated. He'd worked for Daegun for 10 years and had never seen his boss like this, defeated, broken, scared. "There's a place," Jinho said quietly, "in Ghanaian village, a women's refuge. My sister volunteers there sometimes. She says they help mothers and babies." "A refuge?" Daegun looked at him like he was crazy. "You want me to go to a women's shelter?" "I know it sounds strange, boss, but my sister says there's a woman there from Ghana. She's really good with babies. Maybe she can help." Daegun looked at his screaming son. Pride didn't matter anymore. His reputation didn't matter. He just wanted his child to stop suffering. "Get the car," he said. 30 minutes later, Daegun found himself climbing the steep, winding streets of Ghanaian Cultural Village. The neighborhood was famous for its colorful houses stacked on the hillside like building blocks. But Daegun barely noticed the beauty around him. He carried Minjae in his arms, the baby still crying, and followed Jinho through narrow alleys until they reached a small blue house with a butterfly painted on the door. Jinho knocked. The door opened, and a tall African woman in a nun's habit appeared. Her name tag said, "Sister Ruth." Her eyes went from Jinho to Daegun to the crying baby, and her face became stern. "We don't allow men here," she said in accented Korean. "This is a safe space for women." "Please," Daegun said, and his voice cracked. He didn't care anymore. "My son won't stop crying. I don't know what to do. Please help me." Sister Ruth's expression softened when she saw the desperation in his eyes. She looked at the baby, then sighed. "Come in. Quickly, before the neighbors see." Inside, the house was small but warm. 5 women sat in the common room, some African, some Asian. They all stopped talking when Daegun entered. A man in their safe space was unusual, maybe even frightening. But then they heard Minjae's cries, and their faces changed. Women understand a baby's suffering in ways men sometimes don't. In the corner, a young woman sat nursing a baby. She had dark skin and wore her hair in long braids. When she looked up and saw Daegun holding the screaming infant, something flickered in her eyes. Recognition, maybe. Not of him, but of the helplessness he felt. She said something to Sister Ruth in a language Daegun didn't understand. Sister Ruth shook her head firmly. They argued quietly for a moment. Finally, the young woman stood up, adjusted her clothing, and walked toward Daegun. "May I try?" she asked in Korean. Her accent was thick, but her words were clear. Daegun didn't know what to say. This stranger wanted to hold his son. But what choice did he have? He nodded. The woman took Minjae gently. The baby kept crying. She didn't seem bothered by the noise. She sat down, rocked slightly, and began humming a song that sounded nothing like Korean music. The melody was different, African, Daegun guessed, but somehow it felt ancient and familiar at the same time. Minjae kept crying. The woman looked at Daegun. "He needs to eat," she said simply. Before Daegun could respond, she began to breastfeed the baby. Daegun's first instinct was to stop her. This was wrong, wasn't it? A stranger feeding his child. But exhaustion and desperation kept him frozen. He just watched. For a minute, nothing changed. Minjae cried around the nipple. Then slowly, his cries turned to whimpers. The whimpers turned to soft sounds. And then, silence. The room held its breath. Minjae was drinking, his tiny hand resting against the woman's dark skin. His eyes fluttered closed. Peace settled over his small face for the first time in hours. Daegun felt his knees go weak. He sat down hard on the floor. "How did you—" The woman looked at him with gentle eyes. "He is not sick," she said. "He is lonely, hungry for mother, for love. Your money cannot buy this." The words hit Daegun like a punch to the chest. His wife Sora had died giving birth to Minjae 3 months ago. The baby had never known his mother's touch, never felt her warmth. All the doctors and nannies and formula in the world couldn't replace that. "What's your name?" Daegun asked quietly. "Amara," she said. "Amara Okafor, and this is my daughter, Amma. I'm Daegun, Choi Daegun." If Amara recognized the name, and in Busan, everyone knew that name, she didn't show it. She just kept rocking his son, humming her strange, beautiful song. "I'll pay you," Daegun said. "Whatever you want. Please help my son." Amara's eyes hardened slightly. "I am not for sale, Mr. Choi, but I will help your baby. Not for money, because he needs help." Sister Ruth stepped forward. "Amara is seeking asylum. She has nowhere to go. If you want her help, you must help her too. Fair exchange." Daegun would have agreed to anything in that moment. "I'll get you papers, a place to stay, whatever you need." Amara studied him for a long moment. Finally, she nodded. "I will come, but I stay only if you respect me. I am not your servant. I am not your property. I am a person. Do you understand?" "I understand," Daegun said, and he meant it. That night, Amara and baby Amma moved into the guest house on Daegun's property. The main house was a traditional hanok, an old Korean building with curved roofs and wooden beams. Daegun's grandfather had built it decades ago. The guest house sat behind the main building, small but comfortable. For the first time in 3 months, Minjae slept through the night. So did Daegun. But peace never lasts long in the life of a crime lord. 3 days later, Daegun sat in an underground room beneath Jagalchi Fish Market, the smell of fish and salt water mixed with cigarette smoke. 5 men sat around a table with him, the Serpent Council, his underbosses who controlled different parts of Busan's criminal operations. Kwan, the eldest, spoke first. His face was lined with scars and age. "You've been absent, Daegun. Distracted. Weak." "My son needed me," Daegun said evenly. "A leader cannot put family before business," Park added. He was younger, ambitious, hungry for more power. "We've all made sacrifices." "I'm here now," Daegun said. "What's the problem?" Lim leaned forward. He was the cruelest of the 5, the one who enjoyed violence. "The problem is you. 3 shipments missed, 2 territory disputes unresolved, and now we hear you've brought a foreign woman into your house, an illegal immigrant. Do you know how that makes us look?" Daegun's jaw tightened. "My personal life is my business." "Not when it affects all of us," Han said. He was the smartest of the council, the strategist. "The Huang clan has filed for emergency custody of your son. They say you're unfit to be a father. The court hearing is in 3 days." The words hit Daegun like ice water. The Huang clan, his dead wife's family, powerful, connected to politicians and judges. They'd never liked him, never approved of Sora marrying a criminal. And now they wanted his son. "They have no right," Daegun said, his voice low and dangerous. "They have lawyers and influence," Cho said quietly. He was the most neutral of the council, the peacemaker. "And they have a point. You're a single father involved in criminal activities. The judge might rule against you." "Then I'll fight them." "With what?" Kwan asked. "You can barely stay awake. Your focus is gone. Maybe it's better to let the Huangs take the boy. You can concentrate on business again." Daegun stood up so fast his chair flew backward. "Nobody takes my son. Nobody!" The 5 men looked at each other. They saw the fire in his eyes, but they also saw the cracks in his armor. Their leader was breaking, and a broken leader was dangerous for everyone. 3 days, Kwan said. "Prove to the court you can be a proper father, or let the boy go. Either way, you need to get your head back in the game. We can't afford a weak leader." Daegun left the meeting feeling like the walls were closing in. When he got home, he found Amara in the courtyard with both babies. Minjae lay on a blanket, actually smiling. Amma crawled nearby. The late afternoon sun made everything look golden and peaceful. Amara looked up when she heard him approach. "You look troubled," she said. Daegun sat down on the wooden bench nearby. For a moment, he just watched his son. Really watched him. Minjae looked so different now. Healthy, happy. All because of this woman he barely knew. "My wife's family wants to take Minjae away," he said quietly. "There's a court hearing in 3 days." Amara's face became serious. "Can they do that?" "They're powerful, connected, and they're right about one thing. I'm not exactly father of the year material." "That's not true," Amara said firmly. "You brought him to me when you didn't know what else to do. You put aside your pride. You're trying. That's what matters." "The judge won't see it that way." Amara was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Let me testify. I can show them how much Minjae has improved. I can prove you're doing what's right for him." Daegun looked at her. "You'd do that? You barely know me." "I know your son," Amara said simply. "And I know he belongs with you. Nobody should take a child from their father." Something in her voice told Daegun she was speaking from experience. He didn't ask about it. Not yet. But he felt gratitude wash over him like a wave. "Thank you," he said. That evening, Daegun and Amara sat at the kitchen table while the babies slept. Amara had cooked jollof rice, a West African dish made with tomatoes and spices. Daegun had added kimchi on the side. The combination should have been weird, but somehow it worked perfectly. "Tell me about Ghana," Daegun said. Amara's face clouded over. "It was home, until it wasn't." "What happened?" She was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, "My husband was not a good man. He hurt me. When I got pregnant with Amma, I knew I had to leave. I used all my money to get to Korea. I thought maybe here I could be safe. But asylum process is slow, very slow. Sometimes I think they want us to give up and go home." "I'm sorry," Daegun said. Amara shrugged. "Life is hard everywhere. We survive. That's what we do." "I can help you," Daegun said, "with your asylum case. I know people." Amara looked at him carefully. "What kind of people?" Daegun hesitated. She deserved honesty. "I'm not a good man either, Amara. I've done bad things, hurt people. My business is complicated." "I know," Amara said simply. "Sister Ruth warned me. She said you're dangerous. And yet you came anyway. Minjae needed me. That's bigger than who you are or what you've done." She paused. "But I have a question. Will you keep doing bad things? Or will you try to be better?" No one had ever asked Daegun that question before. People either feared him or wanted something from him. No one had ever challenged him to be better. "I don't know," he said honestly. "This life, it's all I know." "Then maybe it's time to learn something new," Amara said. "If you're enjoying this story, please hit the like button and subscribe to see how Daegun's journey unfolds. Your support helps us bring you more stories like this." The court hearing arrived too quickly. Daegun wore his best suit. Amara dressed in a simple but elegant dress that Sister Ruth had helped her find. They left the babies with Jinho's sister and walked into the Busan family court together. The Huang clan had brought an army. Lawyers in expensive suits filled one side of the courtroom. At the center sat Huang Taiyang, Sora's older brother. He was tall, handsome, and ruthless. When he saw Daegun, his lip curled in disgust. When he saw Amara, his eyes filled with something worse, contempt. The judge entered. Everyone stood. The hearing began. The Huang family's lawyer spoke first. He painted a picture of Daegun as a criminal, a violent man, someone unfit to raise a child. He brought up arrests, accusations, rumors. He made it sound like Minjae lived in a war zone. Then he turned his attention to Amara. And now Mr. Choi has brought an illegal immigrant into his home to care for the child. A woman with no legal status, no background check, no credentials. This woman could be anyone. She could be dangerous. Amara sat perfectly still, but Daegun saw her hands tremble slightly in her lap. He wanted to reach over and take her hand, but he didn't. Not here. Not in front of these people who were already judging them. When it was their turn, Daegun's lawyer presented medical records. Minjae had gained weight. His sleep patterns had improved. His pediatrician had noted significant positive changes in his development. The lawyer argued that whatever Daegun's past, he was clearly putting his son first now. Then, Amara took the stand. She walked to the witness box with her head high, her back straight. When she spoke, her accent was thick, but her words were clear and strong. "I came to Korea seeking safety," she said. "I know what it means to run from danger, to protect your child at any cost. Mr. Choi loves his son. I see it every day. He holds him. He talks to him. He gets up at night when Minjae cries. Yes, I help feed the baby. But Mr. Choi does everything else. He is learning. And he is trying. That is what good fathers do." The Huang lawyer stood up. "Mrs. Okafor, are you aware that Mr. Choi is involved in organized crime?" "I know he has done bad things in the past," Amara said calmly. "Haven't we all? But I judge people by what they do now. And now, he is being a father. And what about you? You're in this country illegally. You could be deported at any time. What happens? To the child then?" "If I am deported, then I am deported," Amara said. "But that doesn't mean Minjae should lose his father. You want to take this baby from the one person who loves him most. Why? Because you want to control Mr. Choi. Because you want power over him. That's not about the baby. That's about you." The courtroom went silent. Huang Taeyang's face turned red. He leaned over and whispered something harsh to his lawyer. The judge held up his hand. "That's enough. I need time to review all the evidence. We'll reconvene in 2 weeks for my decision." Outside the courthouse, Huang Taeyang cornered Daegun. Amara stood a few feet away, pretending not to listen but hearing everything. "You think you've won?" Taeyang hissed. "You think bringing some African woman here changes anything? My sister died because of you, because of the stress of being married to a criminal. And now you parade this. "Choose your next words very carefully," Daegun said, his voice deadly quiet. Taeyang smiled coldly. "You've painted a target on her back, Daegun. She's a liability now. Everyone knows it. How long do you think she'll last in your world?" Daegun grabbed Taeyang's collar and slammed him against the courthouse wall. Security guards started running toward them. "You threaten her, and I will burn your entire family to the ground." "Daegun!" Amara's voice cut through his rage. He looked at her and saw fear in her eyes. Not fear of him, fear for him. He released Taeyang and stepped back. 2 weeks, Taeyang said, straightening his jacket. "Enjoy them, because they're the last peaceful days you'll have." That night, Daegun couldn't sleep. He stood in the courtyard, looking up at the stars. Amara came out wearing a nightgown, baby Amma asleep on her shoulder. "You should rest," she said. "I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see them taking Minjae away." Amara stood next to him. For a while, they just existed in the silence together. Finally, she said, "I need to tell you something. About Sora." Daegun turned to her, surprised. "What about her?" "I asked Sister Ruth to help me research. I wanted to understand what happened. Daegun, your wife didn't die from childbirth complications." "What are you talking about?" "I found a nurse who worked at the hospital. She was too scared to testify, but she told me the truth. Sora was poisoned, slowly, over months. The poison built up in her body. By the time Minjae was born, it killed her. Daegun felt like the ground had disappeared beneath his feet. Poisoned? By who? She didn't know. But she said Sora kept asking for you in the hospital. She kept saying she was sorry. She kept saying she wanted to tell you something, but never got the chance. Daegun's mind raced. Sora had been sick during the pregnancy. The doctors said it was normal. But she'd gotten worse and worse. And in the hospital, before she died, she'd tried to speak. He'd leaned close, but her words were too quiet. He'd never known what she wanted to say. The Huang clan, Daegun whispered. It was them. They never wanted her to marry me. They thought she'd dishonored the family. And when she got pregnant, they killed their own sister? Amara's voice was shocked. They're ruthless. Image is everything to them. A daughter married to a criminal, a grandson born into crime. They'd rather have her dead than disgraced. Daegun felt rage building inside him like a fire. And now they want Minjae, to control him, to raise him as one of them, to erase me from his life. We need proof, Amara said. We need to expose them. I have no proof. The nurse won't testify, and even if I did, they'd bury it. They own judges, politicians, police. Then what do we do? Daegun looked at her. This brave woman who had walked into his broken life and somehow made it make sense. This refugee who had nothing but still gave everything to help his son. I need to ask you something, he said, and I need you to really think about it before you answer. Okay. Marry me. Amara blinked. What? Not for love, not for romance, for protection. If you're my wife, you get legal status. You become a citizen. The Huangs can't use your immigration status against us. And more than that, Minjae needs you. He needs a mother, not just someone who feeds him, someone who loves him. You love him already. I see it. Daegun, that's crazy. My whole life is crazy. But this makes sense. I can protect you. You can protect Minjae. We can be a family. A real family. Amara looked down at baby Amma sleeping on her shoulder. And what about love? What about marriage being about two people who choose each other? We are choosing each other, Daegun said. Maybe not in the traditional way. But we're choosing to stand together, to fight together. That's worth something, isn't it? Amara was quiet for a long time. I need to think, she finally said. Take all the time you need. But time was something they didn't have. 2 days later, at midnight, Daegun woke to the sound of glass breaking. He reached for the gun he kept under his pillow and crept out of his room. The security system was off. That was impossible unless someone with access had disabled it. Betrayal. Daegun moved silently through the dark house. He heard voices in the main hall. 5 voices he recognized. The Serpent Council. Where is she? That was Lim's voice, cruel, eager. Guest house, with both brats. That was Park. Kill the woman. Take the boy to the Huangs. They're paying us triple what this operation makes in a year. That was Han, the smart one, the strategist, the traitor. Rage exploded in Daegun's chest. His own men, his own council, they'd sold him out. He stepped into the light, gun raised. Nobody moves. The 5 men turned. They had weapons too. This was a coup. They'd planned this. It's over, Daegun, Quan said. He actually looked sad. You're weak now, distracted. The woman and child have made you soft. We need a strong leader. And you're not him anymore. You don't understand, Daegun said. They're my family. Exactly, Lim said, grinning. Family makes you weak. In the guest house, Amara woke to the sound of footsteps on the porch. She sat up fast, heart pounding. 2 men she didn't recognize tried the door. It was locked, but that wouldn't stop them for long. She grabbed both babies, Minjae and Amma, and ran to the bathroom. It was the only room with a lock. She put the babies in the bathtub, covered them with blankets to muffle any sounds, and looked around for a weapon. A plunger, a bottle of cleaning spray, a towel rack she could maybe pull off the wall. It wasn't much, but it would have to be enough. The door to the guest house crashed open. Amara heard the men searching the rooms. They were getting closer. She positioned herself in front of the bathroom door, spray bottle in one hand, plunger in the other. She probably looked ridiculous, but she didn't care. The bathroom door handle rattled. Then a voice said, "Come out, lady. We don't want to hurt you. Just give us the boy and we'll leave." Amara didn't respond. Minjae started to whimper in the tub. She prayed he wouldn't start really crying. "Last chance," the man said. Then the door exploded inward. A boot had kicked it open. A large man stepped through, and Amara didn't think. She just acted. She sprayed the cleaning solution directly into his eyes. He screamed. She swung the plunger like a bat and hit him across the face. He stumbled backward into his partner. Amara grabbed a can of hairspray from the counter, found the lighter Sister Ruth had given her for emergencies, and created a makeshift flamethrower. Fire shot across the bathroom. The men scrambled back, shouting. Amara used the confusion to grab both babies and run. She burst out of the guest house into the courtyard and ran toward the main house. She heard gunshots from inside. Her heart nearly stopped. Daegun. But she couldn't stop. She had to protect the babies. She ran to the side garden and hid behind a large stone statue. Amma and Minjae were both crying now. Amara held them close, rocking, humming her Ghanaian lullaby through tears. "Shh, shh, my loves. We're okay. We're okay." More gunshots, then silence, then footsteps. Someone was coming. Amara held her breath. "Amara," Daegun's voice. "Amara, where are you?" She stood up, shaking. Daegun ran to her, and she saw blood on his shirt. "Are you hurt?" she asked. "Not my blood," he said. He looked at the babies, both crying but alive. "Are they okay?" We're okay. Daegun, what happened?" "My council tried to kill us. They made a deal with the Hwangs, but Jinho stayed loyal. He brought backup. It's over now." Amara felt her legs give out. Daegun caught her, held her and the babies all together. She started crying, big, heaving sobs of relief and fear and exhaustion. "I couldn't let them take him," she said between sobs. "I couldn't let them hurt our babies." Daegun pulled back and looked at her. "Our babies?" Amara realized what she'd said. She'd called them both our babies, Minjae and Amma. She'd claimed them both as hers. I mean, Amara." Daegun's voice was soft. "Will you marry me? Not for papers, not for protection. Because I want you to be their mother. Both of them. Because I want us to be a family. A real family." Amara looked into his eyes. She saw something she hadn't seen before. Not just desperation or gratitude, but something real. Something that looked almost like love. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." The wedding happened quietly 1 week later. Sister Ruth officiated. Jinho and his sister were the witnesses. Amara wore a simple white dress with a strip of kente cloth around her waist. Daegun wore a traditional hanbok. They said their vows in Korean and English, promising to protect each other and their children. When Daegun kissed his bride, Minjae, who Amara was holding, giggled. It was the first time anyone had heard him laugh. The sound filled the small courthouse with joy. But the fight wasn't over yet. The reconvened custody hearing happened 3 days after the wedding. The Hwangs showed up with new lawyers, new accusations. But this time, something was different. Daegun's lawyer presented evidence, not just medical records, real evidence. Bank transfers showing payments from the Hwang clan to the Serpent Council. Testimony from 2 of the captured council members who'd turned on the others to save themselves. And most damaging of all, a recording. Years ago, when Daegun had first started suspecting the Hwangs of foul play, he'd bugged Hwang Taeyang's office. The recording was old, but clear. Taeyang talking to his father about the Sora problem, about how she was too attached to that criminal, about how accidents happen to pregnant women all the time. The courtroom went silent as the recording played. When it ended, Huang Taiyang was white as a sheet. The judge looked disgusted. "Mr. Huang, you and your family are under investigation for conspiracy to commit murder. This custody case is dismissed. Mr. Choi retains full custody of his son. Court adjourned." The Huangs were escorted out by police. Taiyang shot Daegun one last look of pure hatred, but Daegun didn't care. He'd won. Minjae was safe. Outside the courthouse, Amara threw her arms around Daegun. "We did it," she said. "He's really ours." "He was always ours," Daegun said, "from the moment you picked him up and refused to let him cry alone." That night, Daegun made a decision. He called Jinho to his office and said, "I want out." Jinho's eyes went wide. "Out? Out of what?" "All of it. The operations, the territory, the business. I want to dismantle everything and go legitimate. Boss, you can't just walk away. The organization tried to kill my family. The organization is built on violence and fear. I don't want that anymore. I want to build something better for my children, so they don't grow up ashamed of their father." Jinho was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. "What do you need me to do?" Over the next year, Daegun systematically dismantled his criminal empire. He sold off illegal operations. He turned over evidence to prosecutors in exchange for immunity. He used his money to buy out his remaining loyal men and set them up with legitimate businesses. It wasn't easy. Some people fought back. Some threatened him. But Daegun had something now he'd never had before, something to fight for that was bigger than power or money. He had a family. 18 months after that terrible night when Minjae wouldn't stop crying, a crowd gathered in front of a renovated building in Gamcheon village. The old Nabi house had been transformed. It was now 3 times larger, with a medical clinic, a legal aid office, and housing for 30 families. Daegun stood on the steps with Amara beside him. She was 6 months pregnant with their child. A little girl they'd already decided to name Sora after Daegun's first wife, because Sora deserved to be remembered, and their daughter deserved to know about the brave woman who'd brought Minjae into the world. "Thank you all for coming," Daegun said into the microphone. His Korean was clear, but Amara translated into English for the refugees who didn't speak the language yet. "This foundation, the Choi Foundation, exists for one reason: to help people who have nowhere else to go, to give them the same chance that was given to me, the chance to become something better than I was." He looked at Amara. She smiled at him, and he felt his heart swell with love, real love, not the desperate partnership they'd started with, but something that had grown slowly, carefully, like a garden. "My wife taught me something," Daegun continued. "She taught me that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who stays, who fights for you even when they don't have to. This foundation will help families stay together. It will help mothers keep their babies safe. It will help refugees find homes, because everyone deserves a home." The crowd applauded. Sister Ruth stood in the front row, tears streaming down her face. Jinho stood nearby with his sister, both of them clapping hard. After the ceremony, Daegun and Amara walked through the building. Minjae, now almost 2 years old, toddled between them, holding both their hands. He spoke in a mix of Korean, English, and a few words of Twi that Amara had taught him. Amma, now 2.5, ran ahead to look at the brightly colored murals on the walls. They showed butterflies, lots of butterflies, because this was still Nabi House, the place where transformations happened. In one of the clinic rooms, they found a young mother from Somalia, nursing her newborn baby. She looked up when they entered and smiled. "Thank you," she said in broken Korean. "Thank you for this place." Amara sat down next to her. "You're safe here," she said. "You and your baby. That's what matters." The woman started crying. "I was so afraid. I didn't know where to go, and then I found this place and people were kind. People helped. I didn't know kindness still existed." Amara hugged her. "It exists. You just have to know where to look." That evening, Daegun and Amara sat on their porch while the children played in the garden. The sun was setting over Busan, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Fishing boats dotted the harbor in the distance. Everything looked peaceful. "Do you ever miss it?" Amara asked. "The power? The control?" Daegun thought about it. "Sometimes," he admitted. "It's hard to let go of something you built with your own hands. But then Minjae laughs, or Amma calls me Appa, or I feel our daughter kicking inside you, and I remember why I let it go. This is better. This is real." "Are you happy?" Amara asked. Daegun looked at her. "Are you?" She smiled. "Yes," she said. "I never thought I would be. When I ran from Ghana, I thought happiness was something I'd left behind forever. I thought survival was the best I could hope for. But this is more than survival. This is life." Minjae ran up to them, his chubby legs pumping hard. "Appa! Amma! Look!" He held up a flower he'd picked from the garden. It was slightly crushed from his tight grip, but still beautiful. "It's perfect," Amara said, taking the flower and tucking it behind her ear. Minjae giggled and ran back to play with Amma, who was building something with stones. Daegun watched his son run. "He doesn't remember any of it," he said quietly. "The crying, the fear, the night everything almost fell apart. To him, this is just normal. Having two parents who love him, having a sister, being safe. That's how it should be," Amara said. "Children shouldn't have to remember the bad times. They should just know they're loved." "I want to tell him someday," Daegun said. "When he's older, I want him to know about Sora, about how she died, about how you saved him. I want him to understand what it cost to give him this peaceful life." "We'll tell him together," Amara said. She reached over and took Daegun's hand. "All of it, the truth. He deserves to know where he comes from." A car pulled up to the house. Daegun tensed automatically. Old habits died hard, but relaxed when he saw it was just Jinho. His friend got out of the car carrying a large folder. "Sorry to interrupt," Jinho said, walking up to the porch, "but I thought you'd want to see this right away." Daegun took the folder and opened it. Inside were legal documents. He read through them quickly, his eyes widening. "Is this real?" "Completely real," Jinho said, grinning. "The prosecutor's office officially closed all investigations into you yesterday. Full immunity granted. Your record is sealed. As far as the law is concerned, Choi Daegun is now just a businessman and philanthropist." Amara squealed with joy and threw her arms around Daegun. "Do you know what this means? You're free. Really free." Daegun felt something loosen in his chest, a tightness he'd carried for so many years that he'd forgotten it was there. He was free. No more looking over his shoulder, no more waiting for the police to come, no more worrying about his past destroying his children's future. "There's more," Jinho said. 3 of the Huang family members were convicted today, including Taeyang. They're going to prison for a long time. The rest of the family lost all their political connections. They're finished. Daegun should have felt satisfaction, victory. But all he felt was tired. "Good," he said simply. "They can't hurt anyone else now." Jinho looked at his friend and saw how much he'd changed. The old Daegun would have wanted revenge, would have celebrated their downfall, would have made sure they suffered. But this new man, this father, this husband, just wanted peace. "I'm proud of you, boss," Jinho said quietly. "I know it wasn't easy, letting go of everything, building something new. But look at what you've created. This family, that foundation. You've saved more lives now than you ever took before. That means something." After Jinho left, Daegun and Amara put the children to bed. Minjae fell asleep quickly, clutching a stuffed tiger Amara had bought him. Amma took longer, wanting one more story, one more song, one more kiss. Finally, both babies were sleeping peacefully. Daegun and Amara stood in the doorway of the nursery, watching them breathe. "We're lucky," Daegun whispered. "We're blessed," Amara corrected. "Luck is random. This took work. Hard work. We earned this." They walked back to their bedroom. It was decorated simply. a mix of Korean and African styles that somehow worked perfectly together. Amara sat on the bed and rubbed her swollen belly. Their daughter kicked hard, making her wince. "She's strong," Daegun said, kneeling down and placing his hand where the baby was moving. "Like her mother. And stubborn like her father," Amara said with a laugh. "She only kicks when I'm trying to rest." Daegun kissed Amara's belly, then looked up at his wife. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For not giving up on me, for seeing something in me worth saving, for loving my son when no one else could, for giving me a reason to be better." Amara ran her fingers through his hair. "You saved yourself, Daegun. I just held your hand while you did it." "No," he said firmly. "That night in the refuge, when you took Minjae in your arms, that's when everything changed. You showed me what love looks like, what real strength looks like. Before that, I thought power came from fear. You taught me it comes from compassion." Amara pulled him up onto the bed beside her. They lay there in the darkness, holding each other. Outside, Busan continued its endless rhythm, cars driving, people talking, the ocean breathing against the shore. But inside their room, everything was still and perfect. "Do you think we'll ever tell them the whole story?" Amara asked. "About the Serpent Council? About the attack? About how close we came to losing everything?" "Yes," Daegun said, "but not yet. Let them be children a little longer. Let them believe the world is safe and good. They'll learn about darkness soon enough. And when they do, when they ask hard questions about who their father used to be, then I'll tell them the truth, that I was a bad man who did bad things. But I changed because of love, because 3 people came into my life and showed me something worth fighting for. Sora, who gave me Minjae. Minjae, who showed me I could be a father. And you, who showed me I could be a man." Amara was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I need to tell you something too, about Amma's father." Daegun tensed. They'd never talked about this before. "You don't have to. I want to. You've been so honest with me. I should be honest with you too." She took a deep breath. "I told you I ran from my husband. That's true. But Amma isn't his daughter. I was already pregnant when I left. From someone else, someone I loved. But he died before I could tell him about the baby." "I'm sorry," Daegun said. "Don't be. Life is complicated. People are complicated. But Amma is perfect, and she's mine, and now she's yours too, just like Minjae is mine. We're a family built from broken pieces, but somehow all those pieces fit together perfectly." Daegun kissed her forehead. "I love you, Amara." It was the first time he'd said those words out loud. They hung in the air between them, precious and fragile. Amara smiled in the darkness. "I love you too, Daegun. I think I have for a while now. But I was afraid to say it. Afraid it would break the spell. Afraid you'd push me away." "Never," Daegun said. "You're stuck with me now. You and both babies and this little one kicking your ribs." "Good," Amara said, "because I'm not going anywhere." Before you continue reading, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. What do you think about Daegun's transformation? Could you forgive someone like him? Drop your thoughts below and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. 3 months later, Amara gave birth to a healthy baby girl. They named her Sora, just as they'd planned. She had Daegun's eyes and Amara's smile. When the nurse placed her in Daegun's arms for the first time, he cried. Big tears rolled down his face without shame. "Hello, little one," he whispered. "Welcome to our family." Minjae and Amma came to visit the hospital that afternoon. Minjae climbed up on the bed carefully, wanting to see his new sister. "Baby," he said, pointing. "My baby." "Our baby," Amara corrected gently. "She belongs to all of us." Amma leaned over and kissed baby Sora's forehead. "Pretty," she declared, and she was. Tiny, and perfect, and new. Jinho stood in the doorway with his sister, both of them watching the family scene with soft expressions. You did good, boss, Jinho said quietly to his sister. Leading him to that refuge. You saved more than just a baby that night. Sister Ruth saved them, Jinho's sister said. And Amara. They're the real heroes. Everyone saved everyone, Jinho said. That's what families do. When they brought baby Sora home, the house felt complete, full of life and noise and love. Minjae wanted to help with everything, bringing diapers, singing songs, showing his sister his favorite toys. Amma was more careful, more gentle, treating the baby like precious glass. Daegun watched his children and felt his heart might burst. This was what he'd been looking for his whole life without knowing it. Not power, not respect, not fear. Just this, the simple joy of family. One evening, about 2 months after Sora was born, Daegun came home to find Amara cooking in the kitchen. The smell of jollof rice and kimchi jjigae mixed together in a way that shouldn't work, but somehow did, just like their family. I got a call today, Amara said, stirring the pot. From the Ministry of Justice. My citizenship papers are finalized. I'm officially Korean now. Well, Korean Ghanaian, but official. Daegun picked her up and spun her around, making her laugh. That's wonderful. I can vote now. I can travel. I can work without worrying someone will deport me. I'm free, Daegun, really free. They held each other in the kitchen, swaying slightly to music only they could hear. Through the window, they could see Minjae and Amma playing in the garden under Jinho's watchful eye. Baby Sora slept in her bassinet in the corner, making small, peaceful sounds. We made it, Daegun said. Through everything. We actually made it. We did, Amara agreed. And you know what? I think we're going to be okay. Better than okay. I think we're going to be happy. She was right. The months turned into years. The Choi Foundation grew, helping hundreds of families find safety and stability. Daegun became known throughout Busan not as a crime lord, but as a humanitarian. Schools asked him to speak. Other businesses wanted to partner with the foundation. He'd built a new empire, not of fear, but of hope. Minjae started school. He was bright and curious, always asking questions. His teachers said he was kind to other children, especially the ones who looked different or spoke different languages. He'd learned from his own family that different was beautiful. Amma became the protector of the family. Even though she was only months older than Minjae, she acted like his big sister. If anyone was mean to him at school, Amma would march right up to them and tell them off in a mixture of Korean, English, and Twi that left everyone confused but impressed. Baby Sora grew into a toddler, then a little girl. She had her father's stubborn streak and her mother's compassionate heart. She loved going to the foundation with her parents and playing with the children there. Everyone is my friend, she'd announce proudly. One spring evening, 5 years after that terrible night when Minjae wouldn't stop crying, the family sat together on their porch. Minjae was now 7 years old. Amma was 7.5, Sora was 4. A new baby, their son Kwame, slept in Amara's arms. They'd named him with a Ghanaian name, because Amara wanted all their children to carry both cultures proudly. Appa, Minjae said suddenly. Can I ask you something? Of course, Daegun said. My friend at school said his dad told him you used to be a bad man. Is that true? Daegun and Amara exchanged glances. They'd known this day would come eventually. Yes, Daegun said honestly. It's true. I did bad things before you were born. I hurt people. I made wrong choices. Minjae's face scrunched up in confusion. But you're not bad now. No, I'm not. Because I changed. People can change, Minjae. When I met your Amma, and when I really understood how much I loved you, I decided to become a different person. A better person. Did it work? Amma asked. She'd been listening too. What do you think? Daegun asked. Amma considered this seriously. I think it worked. You're the best Appa in the world. Second best, Minjae corrected. We share him, remember? The children giggled. Daegun felt tears prick his eyes. His children, all of them, biological and chosen, believed in him, trusted him, loved him. Not because they didn't know about his past, but because they believed in his present. "Will you tell us the whole story someday?" Minjae asked. "About the bad times and the good times?" "Yes," Daegun promised. "When you're older, when you're ready, I'll tell you everything. About your first mother, Sora, who loved you so much. About how your Amma saved you when you wouldn't stop crying. About how we became a family. All of it." "Okay," Minjae said, satisfied with this answer. He went back to playing with his toy cars. Sora climbed into Daegun's lap. "Appa, sing the butterfly song." It was a song Amara had taught all of them, a Ghanaian children's song about butterflies and transformation. Daegun's accent was terrible, but he sang it anyway. Amara joined in, her voice clear and beautiful. The children sang along, their voices mixing together in imperfect harmony. As they sang, the sun set over Busan. The city lights began to twinkle like stars. Somewhere in the distance, a ship's horn sounded. Life continued its eternal rhythm. But here, on this porch, in this moment, a family that shouldn't exist according to all the rules, a family built from pain and loss and desperate need, sang together. They were complete. They were whole. They were home. Daegun looked at his wife, at his children, at the life they'd built together, and felt something he'd never felt in all his years of power and control. Peace. True, deep, unshakable peace. "What are you thinking about?" Amara asked softly. "I'm thinking that I would go through it all again," Daegun said. "Every hard moment, every terrible choice, every dark night, because it all led me here, to you, to them, to this." Amara leaned her head on his shoulder. "Me too," she whispered. "Me too." Baby Kwame stirred in her arms and opened his eyes. He looked up at his parents and smiled, that beautiful, innocent smile of a child who has only ever known love. And in that smile, Daegun saw the future. A future where his children would never have to build empires of fear, where they would know only empires of love, where they would grow up strong and kind and free. He had been a king once, a ruler, a man feared by thousands, but now he was something better. He was a father, a husband, a man who chose love over power, family over empire, redemption over revenge. And that, Daegun realized, was the greatest victory of all. The story could have ended here, with everything tied up perfectly. But life isn't really about perfect endings. It's about continuing to choose love, day after day, even when it's hard. 6 months later, Daegun got a call that changed everything again. "Mr. Choi?" The voice on the phone was official, serious. "This is Detective Park from the Seoul Police Department. We need your help with something." Daegun's blood ran cold. He thought his past was behind him. "What kind of help?" "There's a criminal organization operating between Seoul and Busan, human trafficking. They're bringing in women and children from Southeast Asia and Africa, making promises of jobs, then forcing them into terrible situations. We've been trying to stop them for months, but they're too smart. They have connections everywhere. What does this have to do with me? You know this world, Mr. Choi. You know how these people think. And more importantly, you have something they want, access to refugee communities through your foundation. We want you to go undercover. Help us take them down from the inside." Daegun closed his eyes. "I'm out of that life. I have a family now. I know, and that's exactly why I'm calling you. Because you understand what's at stake. These traffickers, they're taking women like your wife, mothers with babies, desperate people looking for safety, and they're destroying them. You have the power to stop it." "I need to talk to my wife." "Of course. But Mr. Choi, time is important. We have intelligence that they're planning a big operation next month. 50 women and children. If we don't stop them now, I'll call you back." Daegun hung up and sat in his office for a long time. He thought about the women at his foundation, the mothers who'd escaped terrible situations, the children who finally felt safe. Could he really risk his family's peace to help strangers? But then he thought about Amara, arriving in Korea with nothing, terrified and alone. What if someone had been there to protect her? What if someone had stopped the people who preyed on the desperate? He went to find his wife. She was in the nursery, rocking Kwame to sleep. The older children were at school. "Amara," he said quietly, "I need to talk to you about something." He told her everything: the phone call, the request, the risk. When he finished, Amara was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, "What do you want to do?" "I want to say no. I want to keep our family safe and happy and far away from that world. But you can't ignore it," Amara finished, "because you know what it's like to see people suffer and do nothing." "Yes." Amara looked down at the baby in her arms. "When I came to Korea, I was so scared. Every day I thought someone might hurt me, take advantage of me, send me back to the place I ran from. If there had been someone strong and powerful, who could have protected people like me." She looked up at Daegun. "You have to do it. It might be dangerous. Everything worth doing is dangerous. But you're not the same man who built that empire of fear. You're stronger now, smarter. You have something to fight for, and you won't be alone. You have me. You have Jinho. You have everyone at the foundation. We'll protect the children while you protect those women." Daegun crossed the room and knelt beside her chair. "I love you," he said. "Have I told you that today?" "Not since breakfast," Amara said with a small smile. "But you can tell me again. I love you, and I promise. I'll be careful. I'll come home. And when this is over, we'll have helped save people who have no one else." "I know," Amara said. "That's who you are now. That's who we are. We don't turn away from people who need help." So Daegun called Detective Park back and agreed to help. For the next 3 weeks, he worked with the police, using his old knowledge and new connections to infiltrate the trafficking ring. He posed as a corrupt businessman looking to invest in their operation. He wore a wire. He gathered evidence. He remembered everything he'd learned in his old life and used it for something good. It was dangerous. There were moments when he thought he might be discovered, moments when he wondered if he'd made a terrible mistake. But every time he wanted to quit, he thought about Amara, about the 50 women and children who would suffer if he didn't see this through. Finally, the night came. The traffickers planned to move their victims from a warehouse in Busan to ships that would take them elsewhere. Daegun had given the police all the information they needed. Now he just had to survive long enough for them to arrive. He stood in the warehouse, surrounded by criminals, waiting. The women and children were brought in, scared, crying, begging for mercy. Daegun's heart broke seeing them. So many young mothers, so many babies. This could have been Amara. This could have been any of the women at his foundation. The lead trafficker, a man named Song, walked up to Daegun with a smile. "So, Mr. Choi, ready to become a partner in our little enterprise?" "Actually," Daegun said, "I'm ready to shut you down." Song's smile disappeared. "What?" The warehouse doors burst open. Police flooded in from every direction. Song reached for a gun, but Daegun was faster. He grabbed Song's arm and twisted it behind his back, years of fighting instinct taking over. "It's over," Daegun said. "You're done hurting people." The police arrested everyone. The women and children were freed. Ambulances and social workers arrived to help them. Detective Park walked up to Daegun and shook his hand. "You did good work, Mr. Choi. We'll make sure these women get the help they need. Some of them want to go home. Others want to stay in Korea. Your foundation, would you be willing to help them?" "Of course," Daegun said. "That's what we're here for." When Daegun finally got home, it was nearly dawn. He was exhausted, bruised, and emotionally drained. But he was alive. He'd kept his promise to Amara. She was waiting for him on the porch, wrapped in a blanket. When she saw him, she ran down the steps and threw her arms around him. "You're safe," she breathed. "You came home." "Always," Daegun promised. "I'll always come home to you." They stood there in the pre-dawn light, holding each other. Inside the house, their children slept peacefully. unaware of the danger their father had just faced. "The women," Daegun said. 50 of them. And their children. They're free now. The police are bringing them to the foundation tomorrow. Can we handle that many?" "We'll make it work," Amara said firmly. "We always do." And they did. The Choi Foundation expanded again. They hired more staff, opened more housing, created more programs. The 50 women who'd been rescued became part of their community. Some learned Korean. Some found jobs. Some went back to their home countries with money and support to start fresh. Some stayed and built new lives in Busan. One of the rescued women was named Kioma, from Nigeria like Amara. She had a 5-year-old son and had been promised a job as a nanny, only to find herself trapped in the trafficking ring. When Amara met her, they spoke in English mixed with broken Korean, and Kioma cried with relief to find someone who understood her. "You're safe now," Amara told her, holding her hands. "You and your son. This is your home for as long as you need it." Kioma looked around the foundation, at the colorful walls, the playing children, the hopeful faces. "It's like a miracle," she whispered. "I thought I would die in that place. I thought my son would never see me smile again." "You survived," Amara said. "That's what matters. And now you get to start over. That's what this place is for. Second chances." If you've made it this far in the story, thank you for being here with us. Please take a moment to like this video and leave a comment telling us what this story meant to you. Your engagement helps us create more content like this. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss our next story. Years continued to pass. The children grew. Minjae became a teenager, tall and thoughtful like his father. Amma grew into a fierce young woman with plans to study international law. Sora, now 9, spent all her free time at the foundation, helping the younger children with homework. Kwame was 5, already showing signs of his father's strategic mind and his mother's compassionate heart. And Amara, now 40 years old, sat at the dinner table one evening and made an announcement. "I've been thinking," she said, "about expanding the foundation." "More locations?" Daegun asked. "More than that. I want to start a school, not just any school, a school specifically for refugee children and immigrant families, where they can learn Korean without losing their own languages, where they can be proud of where they come from while building futures here." Minjae looked up from his food, excited. "That's a great idea, Amma. I could help tutor students. I speak Korean, English, and I'm learning Twi." "Me too," Amma said. "And I could help with legal stuff, making sure families know their rights." Daegun looked around the table at his family, all of them eager to help, all of them thinking about others before themselves. This was his legacy, not territory or money or fear, but children who knew the value of compassion, who understood that strength meant helping others, not hurting them. "Let's do it," he said. "The Choi Academy, open to everyone, regardless of their ability to pay." And so they did. Within a year, the school opened its doors. Within 2 years, it had 300 students from 20 different countries. The children learned math and science alongside Korean history and world cultures. They celebrated both Chuseok and African Independence Days. They ate kimchi and jollof rice and dumplings and injera. They became living proof that different cultures could not just coexist, but thrive together. One afternoon, 10 years after that night when Minjae wouldn't stop crying, Daegun stood in the school courtyard watching students play. A reporter had come to interview him for a documentary about redemption and social change. "Mr. Choi," the reporter asked, "when you look back at your life, the man you used to be versus the man you are now, what do you see?" Daegun thought carefully before answering. "I see a man who was lost for a very long time, who built walls instead of bridges, who thought power meant making others afraid. But then I was given a gift, a crying baby who needed love more than anything else in the world. And that baby led me to a woman who taught me what real strength looks like." "Your wife, Amara?" "Yes. She showed me that caring for others isn't weakness, that vulnerability can be powerful, that the strongest thing a man can do is admit he was wrong and choose to be better. And now? What's next for the Choi family? Daegun smiled. Next, we keep growing, keep helping, keep building this empire of love until it touches every corner of Busan, then beyond. Because once you understand what really matters, you can't go back. You can only move forward. The reporter asked a few more questions, then packed up her equipment. As she was leaving, Amara arrived with little Kwame, now 15 years old. How did the interview go? Amara asked. Good, I think. She asked about redemption. And what did you tell her? That redemption isn't a destination. It's a choice you make every single day. To be better than you were yesterday. To help instead of hurt. To love instead of fear. Kwame rolled his eyes. Appa's getting philosophical again. Daegun laughed and ruffled his son's hair. You'll understand someday, kid. They walked home together as a family, just like they did every evening. The streets of Busan buzzed with life around them. People nodded at Daegun as he passed, not out of fear like in the old days, but out of respect. Real respect earned through years of service and kindness. That night, after all the children were in bed, Daegun and Amara sat on their porch one more time. They were older now, with gray hair beginning to show. Amara's belly was round again. Their fifth child, a daughter they planned to name Adwoa, was due in 3 months. Can you believe it? Amara said, rubbing her belly. After everything we've been through, we're still here, still growing, still creating life. I can believe it, Daegun said, because I learned something from you. Life isn't about avoiding pain or protecting yourself from hurt. Life is about opening yourself up to love, even when it's scary, even when it's hard. That's what you did for me, for Minjae, for all our children. We did it together, Amara said. Yes, together. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars appear one by one in the darkening sky. Somewhere in the house, one of the children laughed in their sleep. Somewhere in the city, a woman arriving in Korea for the first time saw the lights of the Choi Foundation and felt hope. Somewhere in the world, another family was being formed from broken pieces that somehow fit together perfectly. This was the empire Daegun had built in the end, not made of territory or money or fear, but made of love, made of second chances, made of people choosing every single day to be better than they were before. And as the night deepened over Busan, as the city settled into its evening rhythm, Choi Daegun, former crime lord, current philanthropist, forever father and husband, realized something profound. He had spent half his life trying to make people fear him, but he would spend the rest of his life teaching people to love without fear, and that, he knew, was the greatest power of all, the end of one story, the beginning of countless others. Because every person who walked through the doors of the Choi Foundation, every child who studied at the Choi Academy, every family given a second chance, they would all carry forward this message of hope and transformation. Empires built on fear eventually crumble, but empires built on love, those last forever. Thank you so much for staying with us through this incredible journey. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear about redemption and second chances. Leave a comment telling us what part of the story meant the most to you. Your support means everything and helps us bring you more powerful stories. Until next time, remember, it's never too late to choose love over fear, compassion over cruelty, and hope over despair.